Hi everybody, welcome. So today I thought that I would sit down and film a get ready with me video using Tarte. So Tarte is one of my favorite brands. I have a ton of their products in my collection. I also recently picked up 2 new products from them to try out. So I have the Tarte Sugar Rush Skin Treat Tinted Moisturizer, as well as their new mascara, which is their Sugar Rush Lash Smoothie. So again, I just thought that I would film a quick get ready with me today, again using all Tarte products. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Starting off with the face, like I mentioned, I did pick up the Tarte Sugar Rush Skin Treat Poreless Tinted Moisturizer. This product is actually not new. It has been out for a little while now. It is new to me. This is my first time using it, but they recently repackaged it. So they're kind of like re-advertising it as a new product, but it is the same formula. Again, the only thing that they changed is the packaging. So again, this is supposed to be their Poreless Tinted Moisturizer. It does have broad spectrum SPF 20 in here. It is a physical only sunscreen, which is great. It also claims to be non-comedogenic, which theoretically means that it won't clog your pores. It also says that it is a 12-hour makeup and dermatologist tested. So, like I said, this is new to me, so this is the first time that I'm going to use it. I do have the shade Fair, by the way, which is the lightest shade. So, yeah, I guess let's just put this on and see what happens. I don't know exactly how much I'm supposed to use, so it will just go in with a normal kind of like pea-sized amount. So the one thing about this product, I did swatch it and kind of play around with it on the back of my hand. I can tell why they call this a poreless tinted moisturizer, because it is packed full of silicone in here. It's like, what is it? It is, we've got polysilicone 11, we've got dimethicone something something, PEG 10 dimethicone, and then PEG/PPG dimethicone. So again, it is very much like a, the texture of it reminds me a lot of the Benefit Professional. It is feels very similar to a traditional like pore filling primer. So I don't know. Again, it says that it's supposed to be non-comedogenic, which means, like I said, theoretically it isn't going to clog your pores, but with how much like silicone and dimethicone is in here, I don't know how they can really claim that. But anyway, so it is very like silky smooth going on here. It literally feels like silk between your fingers, identical to the Benefit Professional, but we will see. I'm not planning on doing a wear test today because most of these products I have used before, again, aside from this tinted moisturizer and the mascara, but I will let you know kind of my thoughts in terms of like how this wears and stuff throughout the day in the description box below. I'm just applying this with my fingers. It does recommend using your fingers. I suppose you could use a brush if you wanted to as well. Given the texture of this, I don't know if it would really work all that well with a sponge. I don't usually use a sponge to apply things, but for some reason, this formula to me just doesn't seem like it would work all that well with a sponge. So this is supposed to be a light medium coverage product, which I think just means you could probably build it up to a medium coverage. I feel like I have a pretty true light coverage on my skin right now. My face does look very blurred in terms of like the pores and things that they claim to fill in, so I would agree with that. But yeah, you can see kind of like over here on my cheek, I have a lot of kind of these like dark marks and things still peeking through. Obviously you can still see my freckles and all of that. So yeah, I would say that this is a light coverage, but it went on pretty nicely with my fingers. I don't feel like I need to go back and use a brush to smooth it out. I'm gonna see if I can build this up on my cheeks at all. So I ended up again building it up on my cheeks a little bit, as well as in the center of my forehead. It built up nicely, but I still feel like I have a relatively light coverage. I don't know that that really got it to a true medium coverage because I can still see all of these. Again, I hope that it's picking up on camera. I am filming in 4K, but I still have some kind of like dark marks left over from some acne spots and things on my cheeks. It didn't really cover those at all. I am going to have to use some concealer there. So again, I'd say even with building it up, it built up a little bit, but I still don't think that I got like a full medium coverage. The other thing I forgot to mention is that this says it is supposed to leave a like soft matte finish on your skin, which I definitely agree with. It is not like sticky or tacky at all. Again, it feels very much like the Benefit Professional primer or any other like pore filling primer, just like really kind of like silky smooth on the skin. I don't think that you'd really need to set this. I probably will just for good measure, but yeah, it's not sticky or tacky or anything like that. I do feel like if I put other powder products on top of this without setting it, they wouldn't stick or grab. So that's kind of the finish, but overall, I like it. I think that it definitely did kind of have that blurring effect. I wish I got a little bit more coverage out of it, but that's okay. Otherwise, I think it looks nice. I'm just gonna leave it alone. I have a tendency to like continue touching and try to blend things and whatever, and it just doesn't do any good. So I'm gonna move on now to concealer. I'm gonna use my Tarte Hydrocealer concealer. I have the shade 12N Fair Neutral. This is a product that I've had for a while. It is a nice concealer. This is supposed to be more like light to medium coverage, and it is supposed to be a hydrating concealer. It's one of those concealers too that is supposed to be really long wearing, and they claim that it won't like settle into any fine lines or wrinkles or anything like that. Overall, it's a nice concealer. I think that I do prefer my Tarte Shape Tape to this, just because if I'm going to put something that's even like medium coverage on my skin, I'd rather just go for the Tarte Shape Tape. The only complaint that I have with the Shape Tape is that a lot of times underneath my eyes, it does get pretty dry and heavy looking, so I have to be pretty careful there. I prefer a concealer like this that's a little bit more moisturizing for under my eyes. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice concealer. I guess I just thought that I would show you something different today is all. So pretty much just put this like all over my face because I wanted to, again, even out my cheeks and build up the coverage just a little bit since I only got light coverage from the Tinted moisturizer. But I'm just going to pat this out with my finger, and then I will go back and blend it all out with my brush. I am just going to go ahead and set my face now. Like I said with the Tinted moisturizer, I don't think that I would have needed to set my face if I just left that on my skin. But the Hydrocealer does leave a more like tacky finish, and because I pretty much put that over my entire face, I do feel like I need to set now. So I don't have a setting powder from Tarte. I'm just using my Covergirl Professional Loose Powder. So I'm just dotting that all over, and then I'll blend it out with a little brush. I'm also just going to go ahead and bronze really quickly because I feel like I'm looking just a little bit pale. I need to warm my skin back up a little bit. I, again, don't have a Tarte bronzer, so I am just using, this is my CoverGirl Clean Pressed Powder in the shade Warm Beige. This is just a face powder, but it's a little bit deeper than my skin tone, so I like using it just to kind of like warm things up. So again, I'm not using this to contour. I'm just going to kind of put this all over, again, and just warm up my complexion a little bit. Moving on to blush now, I have the Amazonian Clay 12-Hour Blush in the shade Captivating. This is just a really pretty kind of like peachy pink color. This shade is actually new to me, but I have used the Amazonian Clay blushes in the past. I had one that was like more pink, and I can't find it. I was going to use it in this video, and I have no idea where it went, so I ended up purchasing another one, and I needed kind of a like peachy toned blush anyway, so I do really like this formula. They are very pigmented, they're matte. I think some of them you can get do have shimmer in them, but I do find them to be pretty long wearing, so overall I do like these blushes as well. And this shade is really pretty too. Again, just kind of a natural like peachy pink shade. Okay, blush is on. Again, this was the Amazonian Clay blush in the shade Captivating, and I'm going to move on to my brows now. I do have a Tarte brow product. This is the Sketch and Set Brow Pencil and Tinted Gel. I'm a little bit torn because I've had this for a while, and it is a really nice pencil, but if you have watched any other videos on my channel, you know that I don't like pencils for filling in my brows. I usually fill my brows in with powder because I just think it's softer and more natural, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna step outside of my comfort zone and I will show you this pencil. So again, this has got a really nice, I do like it because this tip on it is very fine, so it reminds me a lot of the Brow Wiz. And then you've got, again, the tinted gel on the other side. So the one downfall is that you don't get a spoolie, so I'm gonna have to find one to brush my brows out somewhere in this mess. Here we go. Okay, so brush these guys out, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill them in with this pencil, and I will set them with the gel so that you can see. I have this shade Ash Blonde, in case you were wondering. Moving on to the eyes now, I'm going to use my Tartelette In Bloom palette. This is the old school In Bloom palette, the full-size one, not the Lil Bloom. I just felt like using something different today, and I love this palette. So I'm going to start by using the shade Charmer underneath my brow bone. Next, I'm going to use the shade Sweetheart in my crease. And while I apply my shadow, let's talk about the new Tarte Juicy Palette for a minute. If you have seen videos on my channel, then you probably know I love the Tartelette Lil Juicy Palette. This was a part of the Tartelette Give, Gift, Get like holiday set. And I knew that they were probably, or I guess I'd heard rumors that they were probably going to come out with a full size of the Juicy palette. So they did end up coming out with the full size Tarte Juicy palette, and I was initially really excited for it. The whole time that I had kind of like known that it was coming out, I anticipated buying it, but after seeing it, I think that I've decided to pass, which is really unfortunate because, again, like I love the Little Juicy. I was really excited to see the palette that they were going to come out with and kind of the other shades that they were going to incorporate. But to be honest with you, like, it's just boring. And for the record, I have not seen the palette in person. My initial like thoughts and impressions are solely based on the swatches and the photos that I have seen on like social media and stuff. So to be fair, I have not seen it in person. I can't speak to the formula of any of the shades or anything like that, but just upon first impression, looking at the palette, the color story overall does excite me. Like, it looks really pretty. It's like very kind of light and airy, kind of gives me like a floral vibe because they've incorporated a lot of the like light brown shades with the pinks from the Juicy palette and things like that. But honestly, the more that I looked at it, it just looks so repetitive, not only to what they've done before, but within the palette as well. I'll see if I can get a picture inserted here for you so that if you haven't seen it, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But I can spot like at least 5 different shades in there that are like a variation of a matte cream shade. Okay, I'm gonna keep talking, but I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna use the shade, what is this? Rebel. It's just kind of a deep rusty brown shade all over my lid. But back to the Juicy palette, it just looked so repetitive within the palette. Like, again, there were just so many shades. It was like 5 different versions of a matte, like cream white shade. And then not only that, so there are, I guess, only 3 repeats from the Tartelette Lil Juicy palette in there. It's these 3 shades here. So it is this shimmer shade, this shimmer shade, and then this pink shade here. So again, those are the 3 shades out of here that are actually going in there, but overall, I just feel like if you bought the Tarte Give Gift Get set, and you have the Tartelette Little Juicy, and you have the Tartelette Lil Bloom, basically combining these two, show you, if you combine these two, I really feel like you could make pretty much any look with these two that you'd be able to create with the Tarte Juicy palette. Again, this is just based off of my sort of like first impression of the palette, seeing swatches and seeing photos, but it wasn't different enough to where I could justify purchasing it, so I am going to be skipping that one. If anybody ended up picking it up and they feel like it is, you know, super different from the Tartelette Lil Juicy and I'm wrong, please let me know, because then I might reconsider. But again, just based on first impressions, I don't think that it's going to be something that I'm getting. It didn't excite me. It just seems too repetitive. Again, not only that, but I also have the Lil Bloom palette. So if I combine this with the Little Juicy to get some of the pinks, again, I feel like I'd be able to create any look that I would get out of the full-size Juicy palette. So just my thoughts there. I do think, again, I have not seen the formulas of the shadows, but I do think that if you don't have any of the Tarte palettes, it might be something to consider, especially because, again, like, I love the pinks in here. It's really kind of like taking me outside of my comfort zone, and I've enjoyed this palette way more than I thought that I would. So overall, I do like the color story. It just so happens that it's not like different enough to get me to purchase it. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that in case you were curious. But like I said, let me know what you think of it. Is it something that you are excited to try? Are you kind of in the same boat as me where you think you'll probably pass on it? I'm curious to know because overall I've heard mixed things, especially on social media. Like I've heard a lot of people say that, again, it's just kind of boring. It's kind of repetitive in terms of what Tarte always comes out with, which I get. So anyway, I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts on the full-size Juicy palette. I got a little bit distracted there as I was rambling on about the Juicy palette. So again, I did just go ahead and take the shade Rebel, and I put that all over my lid, and then I kind of blended it into the crease shade as well. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pencil brush, if I can find one here. I'm going to use the shade Activist now. It's a really sort of dark brown shade, and I'm going to kind of use this as a liner on the outer sort of third of my upper lash line. For the lower lash line now, I'm going to go back to the shade Sweetheart, and I'm just running this kind of all along the lower lash line. And then I'm going to go back to my pencil brush in the shade Activist, and I'm going to focus this dark brown shade kind of right again to match the upper half to kind of like smoke it out a little bit, I guess. So pretty much like the outer third of my lower lash line is where I'm going to put this shade. Probably a good thing that I ended up going like a little bit smokier today with the eye look because I feel like it tones the brows down just a little bit, but I don't know if my base is like full coverage enough to make it all work, but that's all right. So now what I'm going to do is I switch back to another small little brush, and I'm going to take the shade Funny Girl, which is a nice kind of like shimmery champagne shade, and I'm going to be focusing this right on the inner corner of my eye and bringing it up just a little bit into the inner portion of the lid. Next for mascara, again, I have the Tarte Sugar Rush Lash Smoothie Mascara. This is relatively new. I think it's probably been out for just over a month now. I think they launched this at the beginning of December, but basically this is kind of supposed to be like an all-in-one mascara. It says that it's volumizing, lengthening, curling, and conditioning, and then it's supposed to be nourishing as well. So they say that it has a Green Queen complex in here that conditions lashes. You've got hemp seed oil, castor oil, coconut oil, kiwi seed oil, avocado oil, baboba oil, and plant wax. So basically, again, it's just kind of supposed to be like an all-in-one from basically reading the claims. There are two sides to this brush, so I will get this nice and close for you so you can see it. So again, this is a two-sided brush. It's supposed to be kind of a two-step process. So over here, these are your short bristles, which are supposed to be step number 1, and you use those to separate and define. And then over here are the long bristles, which are supposed to be step number 2, and those volumize and curl. All right, so I'm gonna again start with what's supposed to be step number 1, which is these short bristles kind of on the top, and I'll apply that. This eye has step number 1 done, and now I'm gonna move to step number 2, which is kind of like the spiky bristles on the back, and those I guess are supposed to curl and define, although I feel like I got some nice like volume and definition just out of the first step. I get a couple of flakes down here on my cheek as I was applying that, but I think it looks nice. I don't know that I would consider this to be very lengthening though. My lashes look really nice and really soft, but they look to be more volumized to me than lengthened. So again, this is the one eye with basically one coat of step number 1 and step number 2, and then obviously my other eye doesn't have anything on it. Okay, so it's quite weird. I ended up again doing step number 1 and step number 2 on this eye, so they technically both have one coat. But I don't know if you can see, like, look at how much stuff has fallen out on my cheek here. And I think what happened is that it seems like the formula tends to dry pretty quickly, and then when you move on to step number 2 and you're brushing it out, it makes the product kind of fall out. Luckily they're like dried clumps, so when I just brushed it off there, it didn't actually like sweep any mascara across my face, but still, that's kind of weird. I don't know if I should try a second coat or not. I will for you guys. So I'm gonna try another coat on both eyes here. Okay, so I've got the second coat completed. Again, 2 coats on my upper lashes. I did go ahead and apply 1 coat to my lower lashes as well. I still experienced some of that fallout. I ended up skipping step number 2 on the second coat because I didn't want to get a bunch of those little like chunks falling on my face again. I honestly think what happened is that the formula dries really quick and it gets kind of hard, and so then by the time you get to the other eye or you get to step number 2, it's too dry, and so then when you start to like comb through it again, it kind of like knocks some of that off. Overall though, I do think that it's really volumizing. It looks a little clumpy, but I mean, it looks all right. I'm not very pleased with the way that it applied. I think that this is a mascara where you have to do like one eye at a time. So you have to be pretty quick, apply it to the one eye. I wouldn't let it dry before you move on to coat number 2. Again, I think that's where all of those little like fallout pieces are coming from. So I made the mistake. I mean, I usually apply mascara. I'll do 1 coat, 1 coat, 2 coats, 2 coats, but I think you probably want to apply your second coat while this is still a little bit wet, and you're going to probably want to work a little bit quickly. But overall, again, like it looks relatively nice on my lashes. It does look a little bit clumpy, but it looks pretty volumized. So we will see how it wears. Again, I'm not planning on doing a check-in with this, but I will let you know in the description box down below how this wore. I'm a little bit worried that because it's got so many of these like oils in here that it might start transferring. So we will see. I will let you know if we get fallout throughout the day and if there's any transferring at the end of the night. Lastly, for lips, I have the, again, Tarte Sugar Rush Sugar Coat. This is a velvet liquid lipstick in the shade Cupcake. This is relatively new to me. I have used it a couple of times, and I really do like this formula. It is very velvety. It's kind of like moussey-like, but then it does dry down on your lips, and it is like a pretty true like matte liquid lipstick. I find that overall this is really comfortable to wear, and although it does dry down, it doesn't leave your lips feeling like heavy or sticky or weird or anything like that, and it wears pretty nicely too. So overall, I do like this product. Again, this is the shade Cupcake. And that is going to complete this makeup look using all Tarte products. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful. If you did, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below. Also, like I mentioned, I will let you know how the tinted moisturizer and the mascara end up wearing and holding up throughout the day, so be sure to check the description box for some additional notes on those. As always though, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in my next video.